Hello. Good evening, everybody. I would like to call the Hammond Redevelopment Commission meeting to order on this Tuesday, July 7th, 2015. It is now 4:30. If you can stand for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence after that. Thank you. We have a roll call on the commissioners.
Here. Here.
Here, all five are present. Okay, number 3, declaration of conflict of interest. Okay, number 4, communications.
None were received.
Okay, number 5, minutes for June 23rd, 2015.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to accept the minutes for June 23rd, 2015. I second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the minutes for June 23rd, 2015. Is there any additions or corrections on these minutes? Okay, since there is none, can we have a roll call on the minutes?
Yes.
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 Yes. Minutes pass, 5 yes. Okay, number 6, homebound conditional forgivable loan approval.
Commissioners, this is for 6 homebound conditional forgivable loan approvals, and they are all here today.
Okay.
Everybody want to stand up for homebound?
Welcome.
Yes,
Can they
come up
come
front.
up forward?
Can we just ask you guys a couple questions real quick?
I'll translate the questions and stand.
Let's just pick one. The Rodriguez, how did you hear about the program?
Through our realtor.
Who's your realtor?
Bridget Jones.
What company is he with?
For Open Door Real Estate.
Let's see, let's pick one more person. Vega? How you spell the person?
Alejandra Vega.
Vega, how did you hear about the program?
¿Cómo usted oyó del programa de nosotros?
Por un familiar que agarró una casa, una propiedad.
Through a family member that had also gotten property through our program.
I don't have any other questions.
Okay.
Anybody else hear of our program from something other than a realtor or a family member? We're always interested to see how people know about our program. We're pretty proud of it.
I saw a sign, Hammond Homebound, so I see the sign, and then the realtor obviously re-mentioned it, but I had seen the sign before. You guys have little advertisements.
Who's your realtor?
Jeffrey Smith, he's with Remax.
I say, I'm a realtor, and you guys don't bring me names I never heard, so I'm curious. Okay, so I don't have any other questions. Okay, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to approve the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval for the 6 applicants.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the homebound conditional forgivable loan approval for the 6 applicants that are present here tonight. If there's no more further questions or discussion, can we have a roll call, please?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
Thank you.
Congratulations, welcome to Hammond.
Good luck.
Felicidades.
Show no.
Okay, number 7, approval of the annual Choto recertification.
Commissioners, Awana Miller was going to come up to the podium to speak specifically about this agenda item.
Thank you, sir. This is our annual Choto recertification process. Choto stands for Community Housing and Development Organization. They are actually the #1 Choto in our city. They're also the only one in our city. So this is just the annual thing that we have to do. They've submitted in your package, you should have resumes from Tamika Polk and Dennis Radowski. Dennis is the executive director. So they do show that they have the capacity to run the organization. They also have a listing of the board members, which shows 1/3 of their low income, and that's required by HUD. They also received an acceptable audit for 2013, 2014. And lastly, they submitted a listing of their activities and the narratives. So right now, I want to ask the Executive Director, Dennis Radowski, to come up, and if you have any questions, he would be glad to answer those for you.
Welcome, Dennis.
Missed you.
You're welcome.
Everything's going well. Everything is sold except what we're working on. And 2 of the 4 properties that we're working on, if we could call them, they're pre-sold. So everything is going very, very well.
So Dennis, you know, I always ask for you to tell me what the acronym means, but you had to say it up front.
Yeah.
You took away my question.
I knew you were going to ask.
No, I'm fine, I'm just reading, thank you.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion for the approval of the annual Choto recertification.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the approval of the annual Community Housing Development Organization for recertification. There's no more questions or discussions for Mr. Radowski here. Can we have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes. 5 yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
You, Dennis.
Keep up the good work, Dennis. Okay, number 8, determination of compliance with the redevelopment plan for the Marina redevelopment area for 1001-1129 Fifth Avenue.
Commissioners, you may recall that we entered an agreement with Marina Development LLC a while back for a multi-million-dollar development. This is all around the new Walmart Supercenter that's in North Hammond. Welcome Dave Westland. He's late. I just want to put that on the record. There's been quite a few hurdles that we've gotten past, and by we, I mean Marina Development and the city, including some technical items that have needed to be taken care of, street vacations, and so forth. So at this point, this is determination of compliance for one specific portion of this project. And obviously Dan Tersman is here to represent Marina Development LLC. So if you have a question for him, you may ask.
Welcome. How are things going out there so far?
Good. We've, as Mr. Talon has introduced, we've began kind of the initial stages of the process to start to get the infrastructure and that into place in order to continue with this development. We've been doing a lot of vigorous work with the city on going through some of the approval processes and some of the technical pieces of the puzzle and getting those placed together. So again, as Mr. Talon pointed out, this is kind of the initial offering as far as the development plan goes for a portion of the lots in order to put that part of things into motion, to fit some timelines together, and as we continue through the rest of that technical process. So, if there's any questions, I'm certainly happy to answer those.
I think my question is going to go to our executives here. If we've approved this project, why do we need to approve to proceed?
We approved a development agreement for a certain amount of development in this area with Marina Development LLC. So if I recall, I think we committed $3 million towards infrastructure improvements around this area. This particular agenda item is a determination of compliance for a specific project within the redevelopment area. So it's more, obviously a lot more specific than the general development agreement that we approved at one time.
So it's not really different than our original agreement, it's just detailing within the original plan.
Yeah, the development agreement was more incentives for the project based on the total investment amount, job creation, things of that nature. This is a specific project within the development. And so anytime somebody is constructing a new development of a minimal size, let's say, it may not qualify for something small, but anytime somebody's proposing some sort of development inside a redevelopment area, they have to come in front of this board and get determination of compliance with the redevelopment plan.
So I assume, and I did read through it, but you've studied this and it fits within the parameters as we expect.
Well, and that's typically every time we do something like this, the city planner, Brian Poland, will come in and also speak to the commission as well about how it complies or does not comply with the plan.
Right, I mean, and that's why we're here, but I think just to kind of back up a second, if you think of the development agreement as a framework of saying this is what we want to happen, and if you think of the determination of compliance as confirming that they are going to do what we wanted them to do.
That's my point.
Yeah, that's really what it is.
So with that simple
In a
as
general sense, as Dave is wavering on my response. It's a little bit more than that, but it's, if you simplify it to that.
Well, unless Dave wants to jump in, but on that explanation, I'm fine with it. Commissioners, if they have no questions, Mr. President, I move we approve.
Whoa.
You cannot steal, Mr. Poland.
Oh, I thought.
I rushed here to get here just to hear this.
Excuse me, did anybody else see him step back from that podium? Because he stepped back. At that point, I opened my mouth.
I stepped back because I was getting feedback.
Excuse me, Mr. Pullman.
He stepped back because he's not used to being called on the carpet for his responses not being technical enough.
Well,
anyway, go ahead.
Exactly, yeah. Dave kind of threw me for a loop there, so I don't know, was Mr. Tersman done with his presentation?
Yes.
Yes, I am.
Okay, because what you have before you are you know, obviously the site plan, the elevations of the two buildings that are slated to be the first phase. And part of the project involves a rezoning of the property to PUD and then the creation of the PUD zoning district ordinance. And that has not taken place yet. And because of the timelines of this development, we are looking at this project from its current zoning. And this particular property on the east side of Fifth Avenue is Zone C2 Shopping Center. So with that as in mind, then we now look at what does the redevelopment plan and say about this area. And that's for the, to indicate whether or not this is in compliance with the plan. So in the staff report, there is a discussion, you know, as already been talked about, everybody knows where it's at, except for Phil. Phil does not remember that this is Robertsdale, not North Hammond, and technically speaking, it's Roby. But other than that, it is in the Marina Redevelopment District. And that plan has been modified over time, which adds to a lot of the confusion of what plan are we judging the project against. And so there is the plan that was written in 1997, or adopted in 1997, 1998. That is the plan that rules for this particular part of the district. We talked about that the project has involved a lot of, it's a utility relocation, it's a new street construction, it's vacating the street, it's making sure the plat's in place. So there's a lot of components with this project. The two particular buildings on the east side of Fifth Avenue is the one closest to Indianapolis is an 8-unit retail building. The one to the south end of the property is, I think, currently a 4-unit retail building. Part of what's going to happen through the Plan Commission is going to be looking at the architecture, as well as the landscaping and the signage and the normal things that is under the zoning ordinance, and how that will be translated into the planned unit development. So, the recommendation is that the proposed Phase 1 development follows the provisions of the 1997-1998 North Hammond Redevelopment Plan for the Marina Development Area and the Project Developers Agreement. Staff recommends that the Redevelopment Commission make a determination for the proposed Phase 1 project is compliant with the 97-98 North Hammond Redevelopment Plan for the Marina Redevelopment District, subject to 1, the approval of the development plan by the Plan Commission, and 2, the final engineering and technical review by applicable city agencies.
So Brian, you used the acronym PUD. Could you explain what
A PUD,
PUD is?
a PUD. Well, I don't like calling it PUD.
You don't like calling it PUD?
No,
Call it a PUD.
and the joke is, the reason I don't is because of something my roommate in college said to me that was, I won't repeat here. But PUD is Planned Unit Development. It is a mechanism through the zoning ordinance in which the Plan Commission and the City Council can, in essence, write an individualized zoning district for a particular geography. Oftentimes, you can, do mixed uses that you wouldn't normally have to do. It's a way of, if you write the regulations, you can write them in such a way to put in the architectural design guidelines that are not normally in the zoning ordinance. You can modify some of the development provisions that would potentially avoid having to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals. So it's just a good mechanism, and under the right circumstances, it's a good mechanism to kind of develop an area that you want to have a unique character rather than the same old, same old.
Yeah, I knew what it was, but just for, the audience,
Yeah.
it's a PUD.
Yeah, I'll tell you what the roommate said afterwards.
I'm sorry, what did you say?
I said, I'll tell you what the roommate said afterwards. I didn't think it was appropriate for the television audience. I have read the recommended motion. I don't know, did you want to reiterate it, Dave? Okay.
I'm going to have you read it again one more time, but I just want to make sure geographically, this is east of Walmart, correct?
East, yeah. I mean, if you think of where Walmart is, Fifth Avenue is on the east side, and there's the gas station that's on the east side of the toll road.
Right.
So it starts at the east side of the gas station, the east side of the Walmart or the Fifth Avenue, up to the Casino Drive overpass, and then Indianapolis Boulevard on the north or northeast.
Okay.
I have a question for Mr. Poland. Would you say this is one of the northernmost portions of Hammond?
It is one of the northernmost portions of Hammond, and that's referred to as Robertsdale.
Okay, but, so it is one of the most northern, in Hammond?
Yes.
Presently, okay. Thank you.
I myself would argue that Robertsdale is a part of North Hammond, personally.
Well,
Here.
there's a difference between using the term north as a geographical notation or north as a name of an area. And that's the distinction that he and I are playing with.
And I'm with him.
I think it's a exciting project and well needed for this area.
So I think we're you want me to read the motion again?
Yeah, if
Or
you could,
Okay.
read the recommendation for
Okay.
the motion and.
Staff recommends that the redevelopment commission make a determination that the proposed Phase 1 project is compliant with the 1997-98 North Hammond redevelopment plan for the Marina redevelopment district, subject to, 1, the approval of the development plan by the planning commission, and 2, the final engineering and technical review by applicable city departments.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. If there's no further questions or discussion on this project, can we have a roll call?
Yes.
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 Yes, motion passes, 5 yes.
I would ask if the commission would continue to like to have all the other individual phases come in, or do you want to defer that to staff at any point? How do you want to proceed?
As much as I like hearing about it, I think referring it to the staff makes the most sense. But that's just me speaking up.
Well, but aren't we very often, we're informed about things that staff has approval of? You know, I would
Yes.
also like to know what's going on.
Well, and I think my question really was, do you want to have Mr. Tersman come back every time, or would you rather just be a staff level approval under, or excuse me, a staff level report under, Section 9 where you have reports?
Again, I'm fine with the staff
I think-
review, but that's my,
I am too. I think once we've done this, just to update reports by Mr. Tillon or even.
Right, and the only reason that I normally would not ask this question, and partially just for your ratification, the reason I'm asking is because you do have a development agreement. And so our task is to make sure that this project complies with the development agreement. So we're already doing that anyway. Now, obviously, if there's God forbid, if there's an issue that there isn't compliance, obviously we'd bring it back and then we'd have to discuss it as need be.
And that probably
That
makes the
makes
most sense. Mhm.
And we could talk about it too, Brian, when specific projects are coming in, if there's something that we think, requires the commission's attention, then we can bring it forward.
Well,
something
right,
like
yeah,
that.
I mean, I wasn't asking for an absolute, all one or the other, I just was trying to gauge your feeling, so.
Thank you.
That works. Thank you, Brian.
And I think that when either one of us has a concern about a specific subject or item on I think we're all pretty comfortable about asking questions about it to whoever we're supposed to ask, so.
Sure, anytime. I think Dan Tersman's getting used to being in City Hall quite a bit, so we might as well just keep bringing him back.
Okay. We will move on then to number 9, our reports. You're up again, Mr. Tillon.
I was thinking more about Commissioner Kasperky's question about the development agreement. Typically, if we have a development agreement with a group, there's an incentive involved. That's when you'll have a development agreement with whatever group it may be. We've had development agreements with Marina Development, with Thrupport, for example, with some of the groups at Oxbow Landing. So typically, a development agreement talks specifically about the incentive and talks more in a broad sense about the project itself. And then, again, determination of compliance is going to be that specific project and get into a lot more specific detail about the project. So, and how it complies or does not comply with the redevelopment plan in that area. So I just wanted to,
Reiterate.
Thank you. As far as reports, I don't have anything specific to speak on, but I'll be happy to take any questions that anybody may have. And I think Brian Poland has something he wanted to bring up also.
Coincidentally, my request about the one project, I made a judgment as to something else. And so the approach I'm taking is I'm making this as a report to you as opposed to having the group come in and make the formal presentation. And then I'll explain why. Over the years, Unilever has been trying to upgrade a lot of their facilities. They have come to the commission on several occasions about the construction of various new buildings on the property. So they came to us about, I don't know, a week or 2 weeks ago, something like that, about their latest project. Literally what this project is replacing a pump station. A building that's currently 520 square feet that pumps the stuff out of the station into the sanitary district, into the street sewers, is being replaced with a new one. It's a part of, obviously, just their general improvements of their sewer system. Years ago, they had a problem that, went into the Robert Steele neighborhood sewers. So I took it upon myself to basically treat this as a report to you that we have told them to go ahead with going to start the permit stage. Like I said, the building is 520 square feet. It's going to look like there's a building it's going to be right by their control entrance point. It's going to match as closely as possible as that structure. It would be partially hidden by their existing landscaping, relatively minor, is the conclusion. Related to that is, in all the previous agreements, we had asked Unilever to try and bring their entire property into compliance with the 10% 10% landscape requirement that's in the zoning ordinance. And they gave me an update on that. And, they haven't quite accomplished it yet. And part of that is related to some of the future larger projects that they're going to eventually work on over the next 4 years. So they will be coming back. The intent is that when they have the next larger project, that we'll have Unilever come back, make the presentation so everybody knows what it was, keep an update or keep you updated as to how they progress on putting all the landscaping in. And then, as opposed to this one, this seemed to be so utilitarian and functional as opposed to, a large building that you would see from the street.
Thank you, Brian, on that report. Okay, is that it then, Phil, for you? Or any?
Yeah, if anybody had any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Okay, that'll conclude the reports. We'll move then to number 10, our bills.
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion to pay the Register of Claims for June 11th through July 6th of 2015. Register of Claims R52087 through R52168.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for the Register of Claims June 11, 2015 through July 6, 2015 for tonight's Redevelopment Commission meeting of July 7th. Is there any questions or discussion on the bills? They all seem to be in order. Okay, then roll call on the bills.
Yes.
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 Yes. Motion passes, 5 yes. Okay, number 11, new and unfinished business.
Commissioners, we had a couple items to speak to you about on new and unfinished business. I'm going to let Karen kind of give you a brief update, and then we can have a discussion.
The first item is from William Davis. It's a deferred facade loan. It's an old loan that this gentleman came in, his dad died. He basically had to buy back the house from tax sale, and he's trying to sell the house now. He can only get $17,000 for it. By the time he pays off all the bills and actually like pays himself back for what he's put into the taxes and stuff, he would be upside down with how much he still owes us on the loan by a couple thousand. So he's hoping that we would be able to waive that difference. And he will show us what he will give us receipts of what he's paid to show us. And then the balance, he'll pay us what he can, but then he'd like us to forgive him on the rest of the loan.
So will we see a HUD from the closing so that we know how much money, how much funds that he did receive back?
Right.
You know, I empathize, I sympathize with him, and in one way I want to say yes, but in another meaning I want to say no. So I'm kind of torn about it because I think if we do it, it kind of opens it up to the next person with an issue come and say, hey, you did it for him, why can't you do it for us? And then he didn't buy it back, he redeemed it. Because once you lose it, you can't buy it back, but you can redeem it. So, I don't know, it's just, for me, I'm I don't know how to think about this.
I assume we have no template on this at this time, where it hasn't happened before, or is there, do we have any history?
We've had requests in the past, just going by memory. I don't recall us ever making an exception because of the reason that Commissioner Myrick gave, that once you do it, you open yourself up to having to do it for other people as well, for what they would consider similar reasons. So, again, that's just going by memory. I don't know if the commission's ever determined to waive. But one thing we could do is if you wanted to, think on it a little bit more, we could always make a decision at the next meeting or, something along those lines as well. If you wanted to review it a little bit more, get more information, that sort of thing.
Yeah, I would like a little, because I'm thinking, if he had lost it for the taxes and then whoever would have purchased it would have did quiet title, we probably would have forgiven it anyway. But I don't know, I'm kind of torn myself. I would like to think about it more.
Well, he said he wishes he hadn't bought it back from the tax sale, but he didn't know everything at the time. He just thought it's his dad's house. He should, do this, and he said he wished he never did it.
That was my thought. Why if you redeem it?
But he didn't know. He was unfamiliar ground for him. And so he just really wants to come out even. He just doesn't want to, he's not going to get anything out of it, and he just wants to come out even at the end.
Right. And just for discussion, he wants to come out even, so he wants the money back that he put into it, but that means we don't get the money back we put into it. So, I mean, if you draw a line somewhere here, that's, he wants his money back, but at our expense.
Yeah, at the taxpayer's expense. At the taxpayer's.
Taxpayers, well, this, on our side.
I think we should review it and come to some sort of decision the next time that we meet. Because I myself don't completely understand it. But I do feel that these things should be done on a case by case. Not everybody can be placed in the same.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Each case would be differently, so it
Yeah,
wouldn't be
so
open.
I agree with you, Greg, but then I don't want to make it so that we can never, every circumstance is a little bit different. I don't mind reviewing them. That's what I'm here for.
Was there any action that needs to be taken tonight on this? I mean, is it, or can it
No.
just be? Okay. So we have the information, and we can maybe do something in the next meeting.
Sure, if you choose to.
And if you need something, just contact us.
I would feel more comfortable having a little more discussion on it so that I'm more familiar with what it is that I want to make sure I completely understand it.
So should we at this point move the table Mr. Davis's issue till the next meeting?
Well, it's not an item, it's not an agenda item, so you don't have to table it.
Right.
And you could determine to not take any action on it, going forward, period, if you choose to. So you don't have to take any action today. And I think maybe what would make the most sense is if, we break it down a little bit more, put it into an email, maybe in a bullet point format, and then you'll have all the information hopefully that you're looking for. Ask questions through email as well if you're looking for some additional information that we didn't list. And then maybe next meeting you could decide whether or not you choose to take any action or not.
That makes sense.
Is the facade, program, back in whatever, 2013, whatever he did to his building, he just took the loan for us, like a home improvement loan from us? Is that what that kind of was back then?
Yeah, we have a home rehab program, so I assume that's what this is.
The facade was the front, like that was
The outside.
We don't have anymore. It's the
Okay.
Like an outside face?
Yeah.
Over time, we've kind of condensed we've had different programs, all having to do with some sort of facade improvement or rehab on a home or paint program that we've had. We've kind of condensed them all into one single program. So we did have a facade program in the past. Mr. Westland would like to chime in.
I just had two things, and really food for thought. First off, any email that goes from staff to 3 or more members of this body should be included in the packet then, because it would be subject to open door type things, just FYI. Secondly, in the answer to the question that you guys were sort of wrestling with, not to make it harder, but this is really, I think, the key question you have to ask is, under what circumstances, I think, number one, it makes sense to review each one on a case-by-case basis. I think you sort of have to do that. If not legally, certainly ethically, you need to look at them on a case-by-case basis. But you need to first figure out what circumstances you would allow a forgiveness, however you want to term it, of a particular loan, under what circumstances, under what amount, and then you need to see whether this situation fits that. Because whatever policy you come up with, whether you say you're reviewing them on a case-by-case basis or not, there's a precedent being set, and you've got to have some objective criteria by which to analyze a new case, this case as well as any other situation that comes before you, because otherwise, the alternative is, all right, yeah, we're not going to set any objective criteria or guidelines, and we're just going to have the person who wants this forgiveness to come in here. Well, this is kind of a tragic story, right? The guy's dad, and he redeems, and he doesn't know, and even though that's kind of his fault for not knowing. But in any event, he comes in here and he spins the story. I think I could, if I was representing him before you, I could make a pretty compelling argument that would tug at everybody's heartstrings. And is that how you want to be deciding these? I would think the answer is no. You want to be deciding them based on something objective. So I would implore you to kind of think about under what circumstances and what amounts, whether it's, hey, we may knock off a certain amount of principal or a certain amount of interest, but we're not going to knock off principal. There's, to Wally's point, hey, if he takes a little bit of a haircut, will we take a little bit of a haircut? Those are all the variables that, no pun intended.
That's kind of what I was thinking, kind of maybe meet in the middle somewhere.
But, where do you want to set the policy at? And I think, when the issue first came up, and Phil and Karen emailed me, I said, you know, the commission's got to decide this, and this is sort of the issue. Keeping in mind, of course, it is the taxpayers' money, and yet keeping in mind what's fair. I mean, it's not, I'm not saying there's a right answer to it, I'm just telling you that you've got to come up with some sort of ballpark guidelines of what you would consider.
Okay. But this can be put
And I know this, I don't want to keep beating this one up here, but, and I don't know the system that's in use here, but it looks like this goes back to '02, and I actually see a $5,000, $5,300 principal balance and a $2,000. So is this 2 loans for 80 months?
All of our loans are split between what we call an installment payment, which they're making payments on, and a deferred portion. There's 2 portions. And the installment portion was the $2,000 that she was paying on. And she paid that off, or he paid that off, I'm sorry. Mr. William Davis paid it off. He didn't pay off the deferred portion, which you do not have to make payments on. It basically gets paid off when the house changes title. So when it's sold, well, he died in the middle of it, so that's what's happening.
So, I mean, cynically, one could argue, right, he took that loan knowing it wasn't gonna be, you know, that if he stayed there until he died, it wasn't gonna be his problem. It was gonna be his estate's problem.
Right.
Well, now it's his estate's problem, right? And now the estate, the son, via the son, is saying, hey, wait a second, there are taxes that are owed, blah, 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 and here's the offer I received. I mean, cynically, you can come back and go get a better offer. I mean, so,
And
I'm just telling you, I could argue this one either way. It's just a question of where you guys feel your policy, where you want to set your policy. I don't think every single one of these should be given. This is my personal opinion. But I don't think every one of these should be denied either. So we need to come up with some objective way to sort of say yes or no.
I have, what you just said, he could potentially get more though, right?
I would imagine he'd tell you, listen, it's been on the market for this period of time. I rehabbed it, and this is the best offer I received, and there's holding costs, and that's,
Sure.
you know, I mean, you can, like.
I mean, if he pinched a few more thousand out of it, that would could make a world of a difference.
About 2,300.
Yeah. Okay.
So, and I might, you know, but on the other hand, right, you got a guy who tried to do the right thing, and it's his dad's thing, and, you know, I mean, you could go either direction, and there's.
Yeah, I think he's
not a right
definitely
answer.
shown that. He stepped in and paid the tax.
And I can argue we did the right thing by having the program.
No doubt, no doubt. Yeah, I mean, to every point, there's gonna be a counterpoint.
Wait and see, that's where we are on this one. I'll stop answering questions.
So are we gonna put this on the agenda then for the next meeting? If it's on the agenda,
Let us look at it and see if it's something that needs to be on the agenda.
all right, that was my thing. So no actions needed right now.
Correct.
Okay.
You can tell me, I got it all.
Oh.
Are we,
The
finished with that one? There's another thing?
Yeah, there's another one where, you see the email from the gentleman. He came home he's on active duty and to find his mother is not paying her bills because she's in the beginning stages of dementia. And he's actually asked, how much does he owe? And in looking into this, Jennifer and I realized that this loan had a 5.5% interest on it, which our loans are all 0%. And there was a few that she found like this that are old. They're like old loans, and we don't understand why we were charging interest on these loans, because it's not required by HUD, and we don't do it. Actually, it's not even required to get paid back by HUD. We don't even have to get money back on any of these loans. HUD doesn't require it. So Jen and I were both looking at it saying, okay, well, you know, she would be paid off on the loan with what she's already paid, except for the interest that's built up now. So that's what we were asking you, if we could waive the interest on it.
Did you run an amortization schedule at 0 instead of 5.5?
If you look at the sheets, you would see that the loan would have been paid off. If you total up the interest plus the amount that's been paid, you know, if you total it up, it would be paid off. Both. Yeah. Well,
So
there's
this-
two installments.
So this was a $10,000 loan.
There's two installment loans, and those would be paid off. He would still have the deferred portion of the 20,000 that he would have to pay off, and when he sold the house or whatever he did. But the installment portions, he would not have to make the payments. The interest wouldn't be on there.
In November of '94, there were two mortgages totaling $25,329.
Right. And then, like, almost 6 months later, there was an additional loan for $5,300 that was an installment portion. So there's two installment portions and one deferred portion.
Okay, so that's $31,000 difference.
Right, and she's already paid off the two installment portions if we weren't charging her interest. And the interest is built up too because she hasn't been making payments. So a lot of this is just interest on interest.
How much has she paid us total?
She's paid a total of, well, this one, she paid it off basically, the 5,854 or 57, and then on the other one, she's paid off the 6,751. So she's paid off about a little 12, 13,000, and she still owes the deferred portion. She would owe that still. That's not what we're asking you, because that is 0%. There's no interest on that. The interest is only on the installment portion, and we don't know, Jen and I don't know why they did that at that time.
So she would still owe the 20,620.
Right.
So we're,
And which he's fine with, you know, he would start making payments on that. But we're just asking to waive the interest.
I mean, correcting the final maintenance issue, I don't have a problem, if it was meant to be 0.
Pardon me?
I don't mind correcting a file maintenance problem, which is, I mean, it sounds like all this really was, 5.5 was put in where it should have been 0. If that's what it should have been, 0. That's, I guess that's my question.
Well, we don't know what they actually did in 1994, what kind of loans they actually.
Yeah, why they did that, we don't know.
So that at that point, they signed a note in the mortgage for 5.5.
Yeah, I think the law would require anyone looking at this to assume that they knew that they were at 5.5%.
That's where I was.
But at the same time, they were doing 0% loans too, so we don't understand why it was done like,
Were they doing 0% in '95?
yeah, a lot of them.
Again, I think that we're in our attorneys setting precedents in the neighborhood again, I think.
Well, and I think then let's say they, in 1994, they did some loans at 5.5 and some at 0. My question would be, why were you doing them different?
What was the
Was there
criteria?
a criteria that someone fell in to get 0%, that they didn't fall in, they had to get 5.5?
What about veterans' preference or anything like that, or?
Right, I mean, what, so, again, it goes back to
I'm thinking that might have had
what
something.
sort of precedent, you know, I mean, what sort of objective criteria do you want to look at to make a decision as to, like, forgiving any portion of any loan? I don't know, that's my question to you that you guys get to answer.
I think this one, I'm sorry to say, is gonna fall into we need more information. Like looking at least a couple of applications. I mean, reviewing history from '94, I think is kind of tedious right now, but I mean, if it comes down to it, I think that's what we have to do. But, at least why there's a difference.
No, we can look at the loan papers and see.
See if you can find more information that might give us a clue on
Otherwise,
this.
you're just wanting to waive it.
What the criteria was for 0% and what was the criteria for 5%?
Ours now are 0%.
It's been like that for a while, but I looked up to see when, if there was any more that were at 5.5%, and I didn't find it.
there is a reason it was 5.5. We have to trust that they were doing the proper thing in 94.
You know what, though? I need evidence. I need evidence. Why did they do what they did in 1994?
Perhaps Mrs. McKinley is not able to answer the question. Right.
Okay, so, so then we need to talk about developing some kind of guideline, but before we can do that, we need to approve or disapprove this, right? Dave?
There's no timeline on these.
But in the meantime, isn't the interest like,
It is. If you waive it, it doesn't matter.
Jen did bring the loan papers with, but I don't know if we need to look at other ones.
Have a chance to look at them all, but we're gonna look for this one and maybe a couple other files and see if I find those.
If you'd be so kind, see if you could find a thread that links something here.
And not to throw another fly in the consideration, not just do it. Many times, people just don't pay you, okay? And then the file gets sent to my office, and we're in second or third position behind somebody, and we basically get a big fat zero because there's no equity there to grab. I guess what needs to go into the consideration, and obviously the amount of it, of consideration you give this is up to you, but I would just tell you that I have files and files where we are behind primary mortgages, where we're not gonna get anything, where people just forgot about you or said, or knew about you and said, I'm not doing anything with it, because the city will never do anything about it. The only reason I bring that up is because in these two instances, you have two people that are being proactive, and I think there's something to be said, and again, how much weight you put on this is up to you, but there's something to be said for rewarding the person that is recognizing the obligation and hitting it head on as opposed to just running and hiding and saying, sue me for it. And then we get into these painful discussions when, Karen or Jen sends me a file and says, well, we're owed, $2 or $3 grand or $5 grand and we're behind, A, B, C, and D, and I tell them, yeah, you're gonna pay me more to screw around with this than this is worth, so just write it off. I don't know the answer to those questions. I mean, I'm just throwing it out there, and that's all that,
I'd
that's
like
why
to
you
take-
guys get paid the big bucks.
I'd like to take this moment to compliment our attorney on attorney speak and speaking on both sides of his mouth. So
Yes. Again, there's no right or wrong answer.
the only thing I'm worried about is that if we do nothing soon, then this interest keeps being added on, and if the final decision is not in favor of this person, then they're gonna be penalized further, and
Right, it's just
You
an
always come in
example.
and pay it and stop the interest.
Right.
I mean, just an example, right now, she's already $4,000 of interest. due,
she's
so-
not able to come in and take
No,
care of
her
this.
son's taking.
And you're
care of
just looking for the interest.
Right,
Right now.
and that's interest, $4,000.
You are right what you're saying,
So it's gonna keep just compounding the interest.
but they're just looking to waive the interest
5%
only.
on $4
See,
grand.
and
How much a day is that?
why not?
Not much.
Why not? I mean, if the
I
son is
think it's-
stepping up
Yeah,
and trying to take care of it, why not? And
not
then,
like we're asking anything that more or less.
and then
than
we
what
can
give
go
other
from
people
there and
involved.
develop guidelines and,
60 cents a day.
Chair can entertain a motion.
You can't make
everybody.
I can't, the chair
You
can't.
could freeze his interest right now while you're examining it, too.
yeah, but then if we vote the other way, you're gonna revert it back.
Well, the interest is already on there for the month, right?
Yeah,
So
for July.
if you guys just decide, think about what you guys want to do, and then at the next meeting,
of the month, the interest is added.
In advance or, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter.
So I say we look at it and come to a consensus about what we want to do by the next meeting. What do you guys think?
I mean, that's,
I think the next meeting won't hurt us too bad, but if we go further, right, it's just gonna be adding up.
I mean, I don't disagree, but I kind of come from the other side of the table. I was in lending for a lot of years. So, you know, I mean, you signed it, you owe it, and I'm not going to lay firm on that. But if we try to get together to create a template on what we're going to do for all these futures, I mean, we have two before us today that are different, that it would be hard to create a template for these two. I mean, so, I mean, I think we're asking, I'm not saying it's impossible, I'm just saying you guys gotta realize that we're creating quite a project here, no matter what we're doing. And I agree with the attorney's assessment that if someone's proactive, they should get credit. I do agree. I really do. So, you know, rather than us getting nothing, because nothing doesn't help us either. But to kind of say we're gonna do something next meeting without some major meetings for that, I think we're lying to ourselves.
Well, we either have to take action tonight or the next meeting, so.
Well, this lady is incapable of making any kind of decisions on her own. And if her son did step up, I mean, he's a serviceman who came back to take care of business for his mother. I would say that at the very, for me, I personally have no problem with waiving the interest. Now, as far as the first one we discussed, I would really like to look at that in depth a little more. This one is different.
Would you like to make a motion on that then?
Is that what we need to do?
We're kind of asking.
That's what you want to do, yeah.
Attorney Westland? We make
Well, up to you.
a motion to waive the interest and make it 0.
Future interest?
Is that how I?
Is that
Just
what
on
we're
the
saying?
loan.
From
Interest
here
on
on
the
out, it'll
loan.
be 0 interest?
The loan will be changed to 0% interest. So that means it'll be paid off. The installment portions will be paid off.
I make a motion, I so move.
Would it be,
Say what
would
name?
it be clearer for us to, for lack of better terms, refinance this as a 0? Would that be a clearer paper trail instead of us in the middle here changing, you know, a note in the mortgage?
Don't we then have to worry about a new closing cost and all that?
Yeah, I think you're changing it regardless. I mean, it would be like a retroactive refinance.
I mean, even call it a modification agreement, if I guess, is what you, if they put a term in there, but it's, I don't, I don't know, I don't know if I get it, so. I mean, I'm sure we could push a button that says 0, right? And her payment
Right,
changes for
easily
future.
change it in the system to 0, yes.
So we're waiving the interest. That's what,
That was the motion that I made, yes.
Can you say who, though, just for the record?
I'm sorry?
Who, just for the record, so they know which one it is?
The one for Lorraine McKinley at 7610 Oakdale Avenue in Hammond, Indiana.
okay, we have a motion. Can we get a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for Lorraine McKinley at 7610 Oakdale for a 0, waiving the 0% interest. Right? discussion on that or questions?
Was that clear enough, Karen? Mr. Wesley?
Okay, roll call then, please.
Yes.
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Motion passes, 4 yes, 1 no. Thank you. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Okay, is there any more new and unfinished business? Okay, number 12, public comment. It is open now. You, if you would like to come forward, you have 3 minutes. Okay, public comment closed. Number 13.
Mr. President, I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Can you all signify by saying aye?
Aye.
Ayes have it. Meeting adjourned.